Hello, and welcome to Off the Record Live. I'm Joe Vito. Today, we are in East Nashville at the wonderful Three Sirens, and joining us is the also wonderful Jason Boland. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Hello. Great, Joe. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for stopping by. Now, folks, we are in for a very exciting show today. Jason and his band, The Stragglers, recently put out a concept record just a few days ago, 4 days ago, if my math is correct, which most of the time it's not. But 4 days ago, you put out The Light Saw Me, which is a tremendous concept album that deals with a lot of themes of, on the surface, it's like a story of an alien abduction, but then on a deeper level, it talks about the human condition and love and life, and it's really fantastic, and we're going to dive into it today and talk all about it. But first, we're going to do some icebreakers. We're going to plunge into the icy depths of conversation. And while we do so, I'm going to remind you at home that you can subscribe to this show if you like it. And you can also send in your very own questions to our chat. And we will be reading them. Catherine, the moderator, is in the building. Three Sirens in East Nashville. And she's here and she's going to be reading your questions. We're going to be asking them. We're going to have a lot of fun today. But we're going to start. Like I said, we're breaking the ice.
Ice bath.
An ice bath, yes. Did you do the ice bucket challenge?
No, but I take ice baths.
But you do take ice baths?
Yeah.
All right, is that like a physical invigoration?
Wim Hof,
like,
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah,
all right.
I got turned on to him by a friend just watching and was curious about it. And then, you know, when everybody started getting the sniffles a couple years ago, I started taking cold showers and ice baths and haven't felt bad since.
Folks, take notes at home, because I'm very curious in that myself now.
Oh, y'all going to endorse that now?
Yeah.
You heard it right here.
Yeah, that's right. It's happening right now. My life is changing in front of your eyes, okay? So
You can feel his immune
look at this
system
amazing
firing up.
content we are providing Twitch.com. Are you a night owl or an early bird?
A night owl.
Night owl.
Yeah.
Do you work at night? Like if you're like writing or like working on? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm sure if
yeah.
you're
I'll sit around and most of the time I'll just sit around and play guitar and pick and just sing songs and kick around ideas that have been rolling around, and that usually happens in the. It usually happens in the evening. I know I have these grand thoughts of always getting up and being a productive early morning person, but unless you consider just drinking coffee or doing something, I'm not too productive in the very early.
What time do you usually get up?
Oh, 8 or 9.
Okay, that's pretty good. How late do you stay up if you're like working at night? Is it like an evening owl?
Usually in bed by 1.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Do you prefer calling or texting?
Yes. I have a rule. I have like about a 4 text rule. I mean, I love texting for that, but man, once you start and you think, and once you're asking somebody like, how should I ask them, and just call them at that point. So
Does the 4 text rule imply like if a back and forth exceeds 4?
Yes.
Is
Well,
it 4 from the sender or 4 total?
Let's 4 total.
Okay.
Hey, hey, are you doing this? Yeah, man. Are you doing this? Yeah, we're with this, and then maybe 1 back. You know.
Okay, that's a fair rule.
Right in there. If not that, if not call, because I guarantee you that somebody said, "Oh, I didn't understand," and then it was, yeah, we should have just chatted it up.
That's a good rule. That's a good principle as well. Wow, we're learning a lot today.
I've got plenty of those.
Life advice. We haven't
Plenty
even
of
dove into the art
arbitrary,
yet.
weird little road picadillos
Do you prefer remote or in person?
for
just anything. I mean,
in person.
In person. All right. I mean, yeah, I agree. There's something powerful about it. If you had a time machine, would you go to the future or to the past?
That's a good question. I'd go to the future.
Oh, yeah. Do you know how far in the future you'd go?
300 years?
100 years?
300 to 500 years probably. Just to see.
Yeah,
and
that'd be cool looking.
You'd pop out and it'd be the exact same stuff. Just, I mean, really, just better Wi-Fi maybe by then.
You pop out, you're
Everybody's
like...
still just going, I think this way, we don't get along.
That's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. You pop out and you're like, "Where am I?" And they're like, "Welcome to Amazon." And
Yeah, welcome.
you're like, "Oh, okay.
Amazon.
This got so convenient."
The rainforest? No, the planet. Oh, the rainforest. You mean that thing that used to be in Brazil? Oh, we replaced that with the terraform platform.
Yeah, they'd be like,
It's the world
"Forest
above the world.
That's a legend, right? That never
Yes.
actually happened. That's a
Yes.
myth."
That's in the way, way back.
Okay, so you mentioned that you're not too much of a morning person, but are you a coffee drinker?
Yes.
How do you take your coffee?
Black.
Black. That's good. Do you have any preferences on like the type of roast or where you get your beans and that kind of stuff?
Light earth side up medium, you know. I get beans from a place in Austin called Flat Track, Greater Goods, Counterculture. Some of my favorites around there. Just try to get them fresh and also do espresso too. So,
Oh yeah, that's good stuff.
you know, and in that
bit
have
stronger.
some milk or, you know, different. Working on a thing between a cortado and a macchiato called a cortacchiato.
Cortacchiato.
It's just this perfect little amount of, just the right
Okay.
amount. It's really just a Western macchiato.
A Western macchiato. I like. You got like a little coffee kiosk.
We got a lot of time
Idea
on our hands,
brewing up
man. I
here,
mean,
yeah.
like, musicians only work that one little moment when they're working. And the rest of the time, it's all just waiting.
Waiting. Yes.
Waiting for your turn in the shower or waiting for to get to where you're going.
That's right. Okay. Now, this one, I asked this question often as an icebreaker, but for you especially, I have a feeling of maybe where the answer will go considering your record. But if you were to explore either the deep ocean or outer space, which would you pick?
Deep ocean, because it's interesting that even with all of our ways to somewhat explore the deep space with telescopes now, we still know very little about our own ocean. And then with space, you just have to, wouldn't know where to pick. Where'd you go?
Yeah, it
And
takes
how
so
long it
long to
takes so
get
long.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the ocean would be interesting there. I have a feeling there's some worlds down there that we don't even know about.
Yeah, I mean, like every like 5-6 years, they go down there and make a new documentary about it.
Yeah.
And have,
I've always told people, you know, can you believe there's still a show called Finding Bigfoot? I mean, what season are they going to find it? Because I watched, you know, like one of the Animal Planets, and they take,
Oh yeah.
they takes them forever, but they find the snow leopard that they set out to find, and then one bird that they set out forever, but it takes them a long time.
Yeah.
We're not talking about a breeding colony of 8-foot primates.
Yeah.
They'd be real hard to keep hidden.
There's no way.
Seriously
With the
hard.
cell phones.
So the
and
Bigfoot thing, but yeah,
satellites and-
game cams on game trails, truckers barreling through the Pacific Northwest. They wouldn't have hit like a little one or something. Yeah. Are the now when people
Okay,
say
yeah,
no,
yeah, yeah.
Sasquatch is interdimensional and it's different, and it's not just this primate. Now you're stepping into things we don't know, just like
Paranormal.
under the ocean. If you told me there was something down there, I really don't know.
And I will say, yeah, if we're looking for Bigfoot on this earth, I mean, there's a lot of spaces in the deep ocean that we have not checked.
He might be
Yeah,
aquatic.
we don't know. I mean, if James Cameron can get to the bottom of the
At this
ocean,
point.
who's to say Bigfoot can't?
Who's to say?
Who knows what kind of shadowy organizations he's connected with, or
I
who his
know.
contacts are?
What if Bigfoot's pulling all the strings and always has been?
That would
From
be
an
great.
underwater base
From
with
a-
scuba gear.
Okay, so we got a conversion here.
Scuba gear.
A confluence of Atlantis with Bigfoot, with like kind of like a new world order kind of thing all going on at once.
This is going to be the next album.
All right, so we're figuring out how the universe works, and we're learning about cold showers with Jason Boland. All right. What's your favorite sci-fi movie?
I'll have to go with the one that influenced me the most as a child, which would be Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope.
All right.
Yeah, that was the one for me. And since, you know, there's tons of great ones, but if there can be only one. Highlander, there's another one. But yeah, it'd be Episode 4.
All right. Absolutely. When did you first see it? Was it when it came out?
You remember they did like a little secondary release. It came out and then they re-released it, and I think I went and saw that one when I was still too young to really remember it, and then saw it again as soon as I got a little bit older.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in 1 second, a little bit of foreshadowing of this conversation. But first, I'm going to wrap up our icebreakers with some music-based questions that I love to ask, which is, what was the first music you ever bought, like for yourself, with your own money?
Stay Hungry by Twisted Sister.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. How old were you when you bought that, you think?
In third or fourth grade.
All right. Hell yeah. You were rocking out in third, fourth grade. And what was the first concert you ever went to?
It was Bon Jovi, Cinderella. Yeah, Bon Jovi, Cinderella.
Hell yeah.
Slippery When Wet, Night Songs. My second one was Run DMC and the Beastie Boys.
Ooh, yes.
License to Ill and Raising Hell.
Oh, that's amazing. How old had you been around that time?
Middle
was this
school.
Like middle school? Oh.
7th grade, I believe.
Oh, yeah. That's epic. That's
6th grade for the first one and maybe 7th grade for the next one.
Wow. Did you catch the bug when you saw them?
Oh,
like
yeah.
The shows?
Oh, yeah. You begin from where I was from, and there was only 3 or 4 places to play in Oklahoma City. You were at the Zoo Amp, the Diamond, Lloyd Noble Center, or the Myriad. And the big shows all came to the Myriad, and both of those were my first times to see shows at the Myriad. And yeah, just the production, just the feat that goes on to put on those shows. You can, even when you don't understand what all it takes, you can feel it. You see it. And
it's
the
sublime.
Excitement of the crowd. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the kind of thing that like especially when you're
Ecstasy,
young, and you're like impressionable at that age. You go see that. I mean, it's like the kind of magic you can't even comprehend it. It's
really
so much
is.
Larger. There's so many, cities that you've never even been to that influence the night you're
and to have never
experiencing.
seen anything like that. Never. You can't just pull it up on whatever. There was 6 channels, and if you didn't see it on Austin City Limits, it didn't play much.
Oh my gosh, wow. Well, we have plunged into the icy depths. Our icebreakers are over. I see here that we have a single question coming in from our friend TCB Everyday. I hate to cut off Catherine, our wonderful moderator. In fact, I'll let Catherine ask the question. I will say I haven't loaded up so I saw it. But Catherine, would you love to do us the pleasure of reading this question?
Thanks, Joe. I'm glad I can ask this question. But yes, TCB Everyday wants to know, what would you be doing if you weren't making music?
Probably cooking food somewhere for somebody. Hopefully a fish that I caught. Hopefully I got to fish and be the proprietor of a fishmongering establishment on the beach somewhere.
Oh,
I don't know.
That'd be a great second life.
Yeah, something along those lines. Something pretty checked out, I'm sure.
All right. Well, with that in mind, let's check in to the story of this record. And like I said, amazing concept album. I'll give you the floor to talk about it in a second. But before we even dive into The Lights on Me itself, I want to talk a bit about your background and kind of your development in your artistry and kind of how all of those things might have led to creating a record like this now. And I want to start by pretty much, I'm going to ask you a big question and give you the floor, but tell us about your upbringing in Oklahoma, and specifically, I'm curious about 2 elements. One being sci-fi, and kind of like the role that sci-fi or fantasy played in your life, and the other being country music, and the role that country music played. What can you tell us about that part of your life?
I grew up as middle America as you can in a little town, Harrah, Oklahoma, and you can imagine there wasn't a lot to do. People always like to over-complain about it. There wasn't anything to do in my town, but the rural Oklahoma, there wasn't a lot but to hunt, fish, ride bikes, and that was all great. But knowing some of the people I grew up with and watching how they experienced their creative life, it really lights fire under people that want to do something like that, because you have the time to do it, and you have the time to sit there and wonder and really develop your imagination. I have a couple of friends that I can think back to, and I just think back to how, you never think of it applying to yourself. I just know these other people that it worked for, and then you look at yourself and you think, I guess I did that too. But out there without what you felt like you needed to be stimulated as a person, people got real creative. And anytime people were coming up with something new or had their own thing going, I just really remember thinking, I don't think that's real for me, like I was saying, and I don't know if that anything down that path could be for me, but it was always interesting. But I come from, folks in a place and a family in a town where just follow the leader and go to school, get a degree or get a job or just get something, and they always still sold it with that wink of, but you can go be an astronaut too if you want to, or president, and they always, you can be anything you want to be, but don't, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's not like people were trying to keep you down or anything. It never seemed real. And then, not knowing what I wanted to do, I went to Oklahoma State University just because that's what you do next, is go to college. And there was a singer-songwriter community there known as The Farm, and it was outside of town. And luckily I met some people that hung out there and ended up hanging out around those bonfires with a lot of singer-songwriters that lived there. And I had written songs and played music and played in garage bands growing up with friends, but never saw it as anything that you did, or never anything that you would get paid to do or go have gigs. I'd played gigs, but you always just set up at a party or told somebody you would play something for them. And then I remember those the folks out there in that community. One of the masters of ceremony was a guy named Bob Childers, and he even had a song that summed it all up, and it was about Crazy Horse. And it was called Woke-A-Hey, which is the Sioux battle cry for today's a good day to die. And it really translates better to don't be afraid. This is as good a day for anything to happen. And that was such a real and serious philosophy to all the people that lived out there and in their approach to music, that it suddenly became something very real. And then suddenly I had friends that were playing their own gigs with their own bands, and some getting signed to labels, and it just got swept up with it. Met my own friends that played music, and we started playing any place that would let us in the door.
Wow. And so once that started taking off and you were able to really kind of step into following music as a career, you mentioned earlier that like those kind of things, or like exploring the world outside of your town in Oklahoma, didn't seem real. Was there kind of this like convergent of like reality, like where you like stepped into this new mindset? Was there like a paradigm shift in your own relationship with all those things?
Yeah, but then you look back and you still think, yeah, but you still just looked at it like, oh, I can see why other people are doing this. I can see, and you never think, for me, it was just never real. And you keep looking around thinking, is this really happening? And then, it was several albums in before I got to slow my brain down enough within the process to enjoy it as it's happening, rather than just be completely blown away. And
what was that like once you were able to slow it down? Did that give you a new perspective,
great.
like even like in like your writing process, or like thinking about like what do I want to make? Like I imagine that having like the fortitude to be like, I want to make a concept album. You immediately
have to stop. Yeah, but you immediately have to stop, because the next thing you'll do is, who am I writing for?
Oh,
and you'll be and then once you start thinking, for lack of a better term, I can see them dancing to this one, and that's fine as long as I think it's an afterthought. But once you start catering to any form of how it's going to be received in a market, well, how do we define what's good in a market? It sells a lot, makes a lot of money. Okay, well then that's our parameter. Okay, well let's judge how that goes. Oh, well, you're not doing well. Why are they doing well? Because they did this. Well, everybody go do this. And here we are. So it's a lot about just learning to stay true to what you think is going to tickle you and what you're going to be proud to leave behind.
Yeah. Well, speaking of staying true to yourself, let's go ahead and talk about this record. When did you first get the idea? Well, actually, even before we dive in, Could you kind of just give like the elevator pitch of kind of the story to this record to our viewers at home who maybe aren't familiar with it?
Yes, this is an album about a figure from the past in about 1890, we said, getting transported to the future around 1990 by extraterrestrials and the experience he has doing that.
So when did the concept for this record start coming together? Was this something that you thought of the idea first and then started putting the songs together? Did the songs start coming? What can you tell us?
There's always a loose template in, I think, a lot of musicians' minds of what different lofty goal albums they would have. Like, we need to do a rock album, or we need to do this album. And I think most bands back there somewhere think, be cool to do a concept album someday. We have great examples from, Terry Allen, Willie Nelson to Queensryche, and we have wonderful concept albums. I loved the White Mansions, the Eric Clapton and Waylon Jennings stuff. It's just so that's always in the back of your mind. But once you start it, and I say this, and this is a decision that you take for granted because here we are and we have it. It obviously happened. Once you start it, any talking about it ironically is over. You've got to tie into it, and you've got to start looking for like holes in your plot and whatever else you look for, like you're putting together a movie. So once we did it, it was a kind of like a roller coaster of just like, here we go, hang on. And we had actually put it together and rehearsed it before everybody shut down. We did our first rehearsal March of 2020.
So it's been brewing.
And I was really glad about that though, because it's kind of got its dark side of an album a little bit anyway. And I look back and I think, man, if we would have started this through this, it could have gotten really, I don't know, menacing or in a way.
I can see.
And instead, I mean, we left it with as bad of the story as it is, but still, with some levity and some light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a certain beauty to that, especially considering that you've been sitting on it through this whole time.
Yeah.
Wow. So diving into some of the topics of the record, I know that one of the things that inspired it was an 1897 alien abduction that happened in Aurora, Texas. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. When did you first get like cued into that kind of stuff? Like, where did that angle come from? Have you been like a fan of reading about these kind of things for some time?
Yeah, I'm just a fan of phenomenon that I always say, when all the king's horses and all the king's men can't explain it, from the different lights that people see around all over the place, from Marfa to the Hornet spook light, and then now what lots of people have really testified to seeing as far as the Stephenville lights or the Phoenix lights.
Yes, I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. I remember that vividly when I was a little kid.
Those people aren't lying. Go watch the interviews with those people. Those are some common everyday people that saw something.
And all the way from like Nevada, Utah, all the way down through Arizona,
that happened.
straight
the exact
over
same
Phoenix.
thing happened in Stephenville, Texas, and the exact same thing happened in Southern Illinois, to where police stations are passing this off from dispatcher to dispatcher, and then they're saying, "Oh, I have it over here. I have it over here." That many people see something, you have to. You don't have to, because obviously people don't. People just go, nope, I don't believe it, so not thinking about it.
Shut it off.
Pretty easy. They're like, no, Jason, you can totally turn off. But for me, that's just always been fascinating. I've always been into it. I don't sit around and worry about it with all of my spare time and have a low-functioning life, I don't think. But I've just always been interested in it. And when you look out there and you look at just the sheer amount of solar systems out there, if you believe that we evolved here on this planet, then there's no reason it couldn't happen anywhere else.
Yeah. And there's also, I mean, it kind of, before we started taping, we were talking about some things in this vein. And even at a certain point, even if you don't want to draw a conclusion about what you think it is, there are like those things where it's like, that's a number of witnesses describing a kind of thing in a level that implies that at least something is going on.
Yeah, they said one of them was told that it was A-10 warthogs dropping flares. And you can see in this guy, he's like, he's insulted. He's like, I know what I saw.
Yeah,
This is a
exactly.
massive thing as big as you can see in the sky, slowly moving silently. It
Yeah.
wasn't a bunch of planes dropping flares.
Yeah.
So just that, and then the narrator on the album, Ken Lane from Desert Oracle Radio, he has a great radio show out of Joshua Tree, California, that's deals with a lot of high weirdness out in the desert type material. So listening to a lot of that, always have been into this phenomenon, always in the back of a mind of a band, and one day we'll do a concept album. So I'm playing these riffs, The Terrifying Nature, which became track 1, and The Light Saw Me, which became the title track, track 2. For some reason, The Light Saw Me, just that riff always just felt like going fishing. You know what I mean? How certain things like, that sounds like driving, or that sounds like fishing. Sound like fishing to me. So in this song, this guy is fishing. And then working simultaneously on the riff for Terrifying Nature, I don't know why Come Hear the Tale, I'm just thinking like, what's this song? And I thought, what if this person is talking about the guy in the next one, and in the next one I had thought, what if this guy sees something or like has a strange happening while he's fishing? And then it was, what if he sees that and that? Well, then this, and what if he got abducted, and then what if he did that on an album? And it snowballed, and anything that became what seemed like a confine really just became focus at that point as far as putting the album together.
Yeah, and that's a great, maybe we'll dig in on that for a second. We're about to go to an ad, but I'd love to dive into talking about that element of writing the album first, which is, and again, this was another thing we talked about before we started taping, but you were mentioning that once you have the parameter of a concept album, in your experience, it seems like it makes it easier to write, or at least gives you kind of like the direction, the goal of like what I'm trying to do, and then all you got to do is figure out the pieces.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about writing the record with that perspective in mind? And specifically, I'm so curious too, because one of the best things about this record, and after this broadcast, you should definitely go listen to the whole thing at home, but it has like this obviously like wild story on it of like alien abductions and like Texas in the 1890s and 1990s and all these things, but at its heart, it captures a certain truth about the human experience and about love that transcends the story almost entirely. And I'm sure being able to come at those things through that lens, I mean, yeah, what can you tell us about that? Was it like putting together a story and then finding that, oh, and it also has these like wider themes in it, or yeah?
I just think that I already had the vision of anything you come up with, it's still happening to a person, so everything's always going to be relatable. As long as you don't make the narrative so specific that it's just like, okay, so now he's on the operating table? You know, it's like, what? So the beam of light does what now? You know, and just keep it, not everything needed to be explained. You keep the concept of, like in Tornado and the Fool, it's using the tornado as man versus nature, or I always think of like the man versus the Titan, the thing, you know, Godzilla, the thing that it can never, it's completely out of your scope of control. And in that part of the album, he's seen the light, he's run home, and he told people on the way. And he gets home, and he's in his safe spot, and then here they come knocking on the door saying, you didn't see what you think you saw. And now he's still seeing stuff in the sky, and all of this is swirling around in his brain. I think the swirling made that the tornado. And then it all collapses. And then Here For You is his soliloquy, alone in the garden moment of how do I deal with this, how we all do when it all comes crashing down, and we examine how afraid am I of losing what I'm afraid of losing, and how am I going to get around this? And then he's zapped up, and then he comes back and has to figure it out.
Now, folks, for you at home, if you haven't listened to the record yet, what he's describing is quite accurate in terms of, you could listen to this record and like some of the songs you just mentioned, I mean, those moments where it's like, it's all stripped away and it's like a slow, beautiful love song. I mean, it puts you in that mindset of like, you might not have ever considered what the human personalized experience of an alien abduction might be like. But when you listen to it through the context that you put it through, it's truly, truly compelling. So that's so awesome. Wow. Well, folks, we are going to go to an ad break, and we're going to come back, and you're going to get to hear some of those songs live here in the studio at 3 Sirens in East Nashville. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back with more music and more questions.
Hey, we're back. Thanks for joining us again. This is Noah Jeffries on the fiddle.
Howdy.
We're going to play you a couple songs off our new album, The Light Saw Me. Come hear the tale of a cowboy raised up into the sky, a sonic revelation decoded by and by. What crashed into the windmill? The suits took it all away. Buried something up on Boot Hill. It was 4 feet tall, they say. Well, so few are ever ready to be chosen. Some would rather jump and fear the fall. Oh, take a look around, the void is closing on the terrifying nature of it all. Is love imagination rendered inside the mind? Consciousness projected from another place and time. So take away the lesson, love loved ones now and here, knowing not the season they all could disappear. Well, so few are ever ready to be chosen. Some would rather jump than fear the fall. Take a look around, the void is closing in on the terrifying nature of it all. So few are ever ready to be chosen. And some would rather jump than fear the fall. Oh, take a look around, the void is
closing in on the terrifying nature of it all. There's a place round here where the fish will always bite. That's where they found me one dark and fateful night. Down by the water's edge, my kerosene lamp glowed. A sack full of panfish and I was about to go. Look out above, that ain't the moon shining through the trees. Oh, my love, I saw the light, but more importantly, the light saw me. Riding back through town, I stopped and told the three wise men. They said it could be serious, but the sun would rise again. Out on the skirts, I tried to give my gelding reins. Turned his eyes toward the skies for more of the same. Look out above, that ain't the moon shining through the trees. Oh, my love, I saw the light, but more importantly, the light saw me. Out above, that ain't the moon shining through the trees. Oh, my love, I saw the light, but more importantly, the light saw me. The light saw me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do one more. Track 3. They deliver all the trouble to my front door. Serve my wife with papers and a gun. Please remember the man with whom you're dealing never was a father or your son. Just another dog he chose 'cause he would run. There's a wall cloud rolling across the blue sky. karma manifest into a form. If you wonder the reason why I'm smiling, it's because I know her love will keep me warm. Yeah, we're the kind of folks that kinda like a storm. We batten down the hatches and hold each other close. A joint and a couple matches feeds the flame. I'm afraid for you, it's getting dark. Sundown at the trailer park, and nothing's gonna look the same. A tornado doesn't ask the fool his name. Having visions of things that bear explaining, with no answers in religion or the law. Sending thugs out to call it all illusion doesn't change belief in what I saw. A translation of the writing on the wall. We batten down the hatches and hold each other close. A joint and a couple matches feeds the flame. I'm afraid for you, it's getting dark. Sundown at the trailer park, and nothing's gonna look the same. A tornado doesn't ask the fool his name. Batten down the hatches and hold each other close. A joint and a couple matches feeds the flame. Oh, for you, my friend, it's getting dark. Lights out at the trailer park, and nothing's gonna look the same. A tornado doesn't ask the fool his name.
The crowd. Hey, folks.
Hi.
Are we live? Oh, welcome back, folks.
Hi, Joe and Jay here.
We got two lost making jokes. We didn't realize we were counting down. Oh, wow.
Joe
Well, that
and
was
Jay here talking about footwear and chairs.
yes. We're having a delightful conversation. We're glad to be welcoming you back into it, and we are going to be asking some chat questions. Now, Catherine's got some questions lined up for us, but right off the bat, there's one I personally am interested in that I saw, which is a question about what did happen on Boot Hill, which is a lyric from one of the songs. What can you tell us about this lyric?
Well, in that instance, we reference the Aurora UFO crash like we were talking about. And it's only meant in that to be a reference because Terrifying Nature is a Carney Barker. He's saying, come hear the tale of this cowboy raised up to the sky, you know, and you'll find out more about it later. Did you hear about this? You know, it's more meant to be just like, we've had instances of things going on. Have you heard about what crashed into the windmill? And in that instance, the folklore says that whoever came and cleaned up the mess buried something in the cemetery in Aurora. Oh yeah, there's all kinds of stuff about it. I mean, it's been debunked as far as you want to debunk it, you know, but
who knows?
well, in our story, the Carney Barker, that he doesn't get to sell tickets by saying maybe something was buried there. So, you know, he's just posing the questions right there. He's saying there's things going on out in the world that not everybody understands and has a grasp on, and that's it. And then in the chorus, it just says the things that get down to that point of when it's your time for whatever that is, just for a powerful moment, for a life-changing event, for experiencing the light. Very few of us are ever being like, all right, let's do it now. You know, somebody be like, we'll do that, but man, now? I mean, I got to go do some stuff. So that they're rarely ready to be chosen. And then how, given that instance, some people will shoot themselves in the foot, for lack of a better term, will jump rather than be afraid of falling. Like some people that are afraid of being up on in heights, they're not afraid of falling. They're afraid they might jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just that feeling of like, what if I jumped? You know?
Yeah.
And I think if you apply, and you look back and you're like, I'd never be that, but apply that to a lot of different things in your life. Like, what if I just did this? You know, if you're driving a car, you know, and it can get to us of that, given the infinite possibilities of what we can do as humans, but you only get that choice of that one thing to do.
Yeah.
And that always just messes with me. So the chorus lays that out, and then the next verse says, is love something that is this eternal conscious thing, or is it chemicals in our brains? And we're going to find that out later too, you know. And then when he sees her in Restless Spirits being channeled through that person, he realizes there's consciousness and connectivity and enough real for him to go on and trudge through this unknown future that he doesn't understand.
Yes, folks. That's what I'm talking about. It transcends what you're writing about. There's layers to these songs that transcends the story, and it touches on all these themes. That's fantastic. Wow. Well, we're going to ask more chat questions, but before we do, while we're on the subject of paranormal happenings, one that I want to ask about that's referenced in, which track was it? I wrote it down here. It happened in Transmission Out, which has the excerpts from Ken Lane's, I guess, what is it, a Boca pamphlet that he got it from specifically. But it makes reference to Merle Haggard seeing light of some kind. And I did a little bit of research before this, and I found that Merle Haggard has some connections with paranormal activities. Are you familiar with the story? Could you tell us about it?
I don't know that. I've only heard the story, like I said, that's getting down, dribbled in from why was that in there, and a short little blurb about why that conversion was but do tell.
Well, all I know, and if folks at home know more than we do, I'm very curious about it myself, but I know that Merle Haggard played at like the first ever like Roswell UFO festival. He did a set there, as did some other, Marty Stewart also played there, which was weird.
Yeah.
But and then for the event, there's an article I found from 2003. You can look it up. Merle Haggard's on record being I fully believe Roswell happened, and he's a UFO truther. I just think that's fascinating. Merle Haggard, right at the end of his life too. Just what an era. Catherine, do we have more questions from chat to ask? Oh, this is wonderful.
And that first comment was from BCR Media, so shout out to them.
Shout out.
We have a few questions from a user called LisaCon127 who wants to know, how did you get connected with Shooter Jennings, and what was it like working with him on his albums?
First of all, we got connected by being on the road. They, I've asked if I could tell this story the other day, and he said I could.
All right.
Well, it's not that bad. It's just, anytime you're talking about somebody having any form of legal detainments, but we know we're waiting for Shooter Jennings to come. We're playing this show together in Wichita Falls, the Grams, and they're late. They finally come rolling in. It was so perfect. Like we're all in those real dirty van days of just doing it for the sheer rocking for the love, and they come rolling out of there. Like we should have been shooting a video to watch these guys, all these long-haired dudes roll out late and come in there and set up real fast and play this awesome show, and we ended up having a good time. They were detained over a little bit of cannabis in Texas on the way to the show. So that's the first time we ever got to, that's the first time we met, and it was meeting under those circumstances, and we've been very good friends ever since. That subject matter for getting arrested was only added fuel to us being friends.
Yeah, there you go.
And then fast forward to years and years of just bumping into each other on the road. We're at Steamboat, and you know how it seems like if you go to an event or through a vacation or something, if you really distill what you do, if you don't do a lot, it seems like the stuff that happens ends up being heavy. And it was one of those years, I think it just snowed a lot. I couldn't find any reason, my wife and I, to not go to any of the shows. And then we thought, we got to go down to the tent and see Shooter. We have to. So we went down there, ended up visiting, and I was about ready to start thinking about a new album, and just happened to say, have you ever produced anything? And he said, I've kind of messed around with some tracks, but I'd really like to produce an album. I said, what do you think? And he said, let's do this. I said, my only stipulation on this one is I want to do it from tape to tape, no Pro Tools. He said, let's do it. So I already knew he would tackle anything and not have to worry about, like, well, I don't know how that's going to sound, and I've got my reputation to worry about, or,
Yeah,
like,
you had him in your corner.
Yeah. And then his experience with his concept records, it was a no-brainer. I don't even think I ever asked, really. It was just like, so, does Shooter know what studio we're going to use? I mean, it was,
Yeah.
And we had done albums since then too, because we did Dark and Dirty with Shooter, and then we did Squelch with Jim Ward, and then we did Hard Times Are Relative. So we'd done 2 albums in between. So it wasn't even like it was just like we'd always been going back to Shooter. It was, this album had to be him. And start to finish, pound for pound, the most fun producing an album ever.
Oh, that's amazing.
It was. Just the studio, the hang, every bit of it, the material, the focus of not sitting there wondering like, well, where are we going to go with this? Or it always gave a focus, because that part needed to be told within that part of the album or something. So you always think, oh yeah, we're needing some of this. It was fun.
Yeah, well, that energy, I mean, it absolutely translates to the record. I mean, when you listen to it, there's like a palpable level of care and intention, and even just the chemistry of the band playing and the way that you can build up solos and all of this. I mean, it's just tremendously fun to listen to.
They had a really good coffee machine.
Oh, and that makes a big difference, folks. It really does.
One of those push buttons. You don't have to earn it. You just, nothing. You just walk by, bzzz,
you
coffee's
go.
coming out, and it was one of those Philips espresso machines. It does it all right. I mean, it was a good one.
All right, well, we're at the hour mark. We are over time at this point, but I have one last quick question I'll ask you, which is that I know that tonight you're making your debut at the Grand Ole Opry.
Yes.
How do you feel? What's the future looking for you?
We're flattered and honored. Just what you would think. It's a pinnacle of country music, and we're honored to be playing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that is a tremendous honor, and we're so glad that you took time out of your day today to stop by here. And
You guys are great. We enjoy what you do from far. We get to.
Pleasure. A real pleasure, Jason. Folks, Jason Boland, his new record, The Light Saw Me, is out now. We're leaning in so you know how serious I am. Please subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. I'm so disappointed if you haven't subscribed. We try so hard.
Hit that like button, subscribe, mash it.
Exactly. Folks, Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to Neon Media, American Songwriter, and Twitch for bringing this all together online. Thank you to Three Sirens and East Asheville for being our wonderful host in the brick and mortar. Thank you, Jason, for stopping
BCR.
by and speaking with us. My name is Joe Vito. Good night. I love you.